Hello there, Wolverines. How is everyone doing? It is almost Christmas time, and I want to wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas. And because it's Christmas, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has given us a decision, which is an early Christmas present for some people if you live in the Fifth Circuit, at least. So let's go ahead and talk about this case. All right, we are back, and today we're going to be talking about a case out of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. And that case is a case known as United States versus Edward Cockerham. Okay, so we're going to break down who Edward Cockerham is, exactly what he was charged with, and what the Fifth Circuit said. All right, so Edward Cockerham is a father, and in the past, he was kind of a deadbeat dad. Let's be honest. He did not pay his child support. And if you don't pay your child support, a lot of people don't know this, but you can lose your gun rights. So Edward Cockerham lost his gun rights for not paying child support. He did end up paying his child support eventually. But even when you do pay your child support and you get all caught up, once you lose your gun rights for not paying child support, that is it because it's a felony. And they found him in the possession of a firearm. Now, this is interesting because they charged him with being a felon with a firearm, which is verboten under federal law. A felon cannot own a firearm unless you go through a way of restoring your rights, but we're not going to get into that right now. So, at the district court level, when he went there, the district court ruled that that the law preventing him from owning a firearm is unconstitutional because it fails the Bruin test. Is a two-step test. The first step is the plain text of the Second Amendment. Cockerham, there is no doubt that he is part of the people. The people is the political mass of the country. Basically, anyone that reaches the age of the majority. This is what the courts have always held. Although there was a court the other day that said illegals are part of the people, but they still can own firearms. But that's another case for another time. So he is over 18 years old and part of the political class, reaching the age of majority, which right now in the United States is 18. And bearing arms is the whole entire point of the Second Amendment, since he is part of the people and his conduct is covered by the plain text of the Second Amendment. Basically, what they said is that his conduct is presumably constitutional. Now it falls to the state to prove that his conduct is not constitutional by doing stuff like giving historical analogs of laws from the founding era. The ratification date of the Second Amendment, 1792, even though a lot of anti-gunners try to say it's the ratification date of the 14th Amendment, which is 1868, but I disagree with that. So it's up to the government to provide historical analogs to show that a law is consistent with the nation's history and tradition of firearms regulations. It turns out that the state could not provide such analogs. So they failed the Bruin two-step test in the district court. The government appealed to the United States Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which went to a 3-judge panel, 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And I bet you can guess the voting breakdown on this. But by a margin of 2-1, the panel decided that the law banning nonviolent felons from owning firearms fails the Bruin test and therefore is unconstitutional. The Fifth Circuit has also given us Rahimi, but Rahimi was kind of a violent guy, so the Supreme Court said that you can disarm him temporarily until he's no longer a danger to himself or others. And there is no doubt that Cockerham was not a danger to himself or others. He had no violent convictions, no violent crimes, and was not a violent person. So what they said was because he shows no violence and there's no danger inherent eh, risk of him owning a firearm that is more than anyone else owning a firearm, that it is presumably constitutional that he's allowed to own guns, and the law preventing him from owning guns is unconstitutional. So he wins at the Fifth Circuit, which is a good thing. The government takes a loss in this case. Actually, he lost at district court, sorry, and the government won at district court. So I got it kind of messed up. So what happens now is that the government has a couple different options here. They can ask for the Fifth Circuit to take the case en banc, which would bring it up to the full Fifth Circuit bench. All 16 members of the Fifth Circuit would hear the case. But as we saw in Rahimi, we kind of know what the Fifth Circuit would do to, as far as we can know. And they would probably back up the panel's decision here. So the government can do that, which they might just to try to stall the case a little bit. Or they can go ahead and skip the en banc because chances are they're going to lose at the en banc and file for what's called a writ of certiorari. A writ of certiorari with the Supreme Court is a petition to the Supreme Court to take up the case. What I think would happen on that is it'd probably get denied, to tell you the truth. But I don't think the government is going to do that because if it goes up to the Supreme Court, and we already know that the Supreme Court and Rahimi said that you can disarm someone, but only temporarily as long as they're a danger to themselves or others, the Supreme Court would probably fine for Cockerham in this situation because he's not a danger to himself or others. And being consistent with Bruin would assure that the Supreme Court would rule in his favor. Right now, because of the Supreme Court ruling in the Trump case, this injunction, or whatever you want to call it, this decision only affects the Fifth Circuit. If the government takes this all over to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court rules against the government, it would be nationwide. And I don't see that the government wants that to happen. And so I think the most likely situation is that they ask for an en banc, it goes to en banc, and they lose, and they don't file for a writ of certiorari. There is another option that they could take, and that option is to go ahead and just let it die here, uh, because this is an as-applied challenge. So let Cockerham walk away without, like, affecting the law nationwide. But this decision that the that the appeals court did actually is in line with the Bruin decision and also the Rahimi decision. So I think it's the right decision. And yeah, that's it. All right, just wanted to bring this to you really quickly here and go ahead and let you know what exactly is going on. There's a couple other stories out there that I'll get to tomorrow, so I'm not going to get to it tonight, but I'll get to it tomorrow. One dealing with the Clyde letter. If you don't know, Clyde and 31 other members of Congress issued a letter trying to tell the DOJ to stop its defense of the NFA. We'll talk about that tomorrow. And also the changing of marijuana from a Schedule 3 or Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3. And that actually might affect people's gun rates on marijuana. So we'll talk about that tomorrow too. But as of right now, we are gonna get out of here, and with that, we're done. All right, bye bye. Oh, by the way, there is a button that you can hit hype if you're watching this on a replay. Hit that hype button. It apparently helps. I don't know exactly what it does, but it does something. All right, bye.